The year 2387 brought nothing but bad news to Earth. The planet looked sick from space, covered in brown clouds that never went away. The oceans had turned black years ago, and most of the land was too poisoned to grow anything. People lived, underground now, hiding in metal cities built deep in the earth or floating in space stations around the dying world. Dr. Kim Soo-jin pressed her face against the cold window of Luna Station and stared at Earth. She had been watching the planet die for 10 years now, recording every detail as their home slowly gave up. Her job was to find ways to fix the damage, but every day the numbers got worse. The air was getting thicker with poison. The water was becoming more toxic. Even the underground cities were running out of clean air. "Dr. Kim," called Park Min-ho from across the room. He was young, maybe 25, and still had hope in his eyes. That hope was getting smaller each day. "We lost contact with another colony ship." Kim turned away from the window. This was the third ship this month. For 50 years, humans had been sending colony ships to other planets, hoping to find new homes before Earth died completely. Most of those ships just disappeared into space and never sent messages back home. Nobody knew if they found new planets or just died in the cold darkness between stars. "Which ship was it?" she asked. "The New Dawn. They were heading to the Proxima system. That was our biggest hope for finding a good planet." Park looked down at his screen. Captain Yoon Tae-hwan was commanding that mission. He was supposed to check in every 6 months. It has been 2 years now. Kim felt something cold in her stomach. Captain Yoon was one of the best space pilots they had. If his ship was lost, then maybe all the colony ships were lost too. Maybe humans really were alone, waiting to die on a poisoned world. The door opened and Chancellor Lee De-hoon walked in. He was the leader of what was left of human government, but leading 50 million scared people was not much of a job anymore. His hair had turned white in the past 5 years, and his face looked older than his 60 years. "How are the numbers today?" Lee asked, but his voice said he already knew the answer would be bad. "Worse?" Kim said simply. "The poisoning is speeding up. We have maybe 10 years before even the underground cities become too dangerous." Lee sat down heavily in a chair. "And the colony ships?" Another one went silent. "That makes 15 ships with no contact in the past 3 years. Kim showed him the data on her screen. "We have sent 47 colony ships into space. Only 3 are still sending messages back to us." "So we are really dying then," Lee said quietly. Park looked up from his work. "Should we send another distress signal? Maybe someone out there will hear us and help." Kim almost laughed, but it would have been a sad laugh. "We have been sending distress signals for 20 years, Park. If anyone was listening, they would have answered by now." But Lee nodded slowly. "Do it anyway. Send it on all frequencies as strong as we can make it. If we are going to die, at least let the universe know that humans existed." Kim walked to the communication station and started typing. She had sent hundreds of these messages before. They always said the same thing. Humans were dying, Earth was dying. Please help if anyone was listening. She never expected an answer. Space was too big and too empty for anyone to care about one small dying planet. Outside the station, Earth turned slowly in space, showing its sick brown face to the stars. In the underground cities, children were being born who would never see blue sky or breathe clean air. In the space stations, families crowded together in small metal rooms, sharing recycled air and artificial food. The colony ships had been their last hope. Send humans to other worlds, let them start fresh on clean planets far from the mess they had made of Earth. But space was dangerous and cruel. Ships broke down, crews died, and planets that looked good from far away turned out to be poisonous or too cold or too hot for human life. "Signal sent," Kim reported. "It will reach the nearest star systems in about 4 years." "Good," Lee said, but he did not sound like he believed it would help. Kim went back to her window and looked at Earth again. Somewhere down there, in the deep tunnels under the ground, people were trying to live normal lives. Children went to school, parents worked jobs, families ate dinner together. They pretended everything was normal, but everyone knew the truth. Earth was dying, and humans were dying with it. What none of them knew was that their signal would not travel alone through space. Something had been listening to human distress calls for years, waiting and watching. Something that had heard the same desperate cries from dozens of other dying worlds. Something that always answered those calls, always came to help, and help always came with a price that no one expected to pay. The signal flew out into the darkness between stars, carrying humanity's last plea for salvation to whatever might be, listening in the vast, cold universe. 3 months after the distress signal went out, something answered. The ships appeared without warning in Earth's orbit, beautiful and strange like nothing humans had ever seen. They looked like they were made of crystal and light, changing colors as they moved through space. There were 12 of them, each one bigger than the largest human space station. Dr. Kim Soo-jin was the first to see them on her screens. She called Chancellor Lee Da-hoon immediately, her hand shaking as she pressed the communication button. "Chancellor, you need to get up here right now. We have visitors." When Lee arrived at Luna Station an hour later, he found Kim staring at the alien ships with wonder and fear. The ships were beautiful, but there was something about them that made him feel nervous. They were too perfect, too clean, like they had never been in a real fight or faced any real danger. "Have they tried to talk to us?" Lee asked. "Yes," Kim said. "They are asking permission to land on Earth. They say they come in peace and want to help us." Lee felt his heart beating faster. After 50 years of sending messages into space with no answer, someone had finally come. But he had read enough history books to know that first contact with aliens could go very wrong very quickly. "Let me talk to them," he said. The alien voice that came through the speakers was beautiful, like music made of words. It spoke perfect Korean, which was already strange since humans had never sent their languages into space in any organized way. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Hegemony, representatives of many advanced species who have watched your struggle with great sadness. We have come to offer our help in your time of need." Lee took a deep breath. "We welcome you to our system. We are indeed in great need of help. Our planet is dying and our people are dying with it. We know," the voice said with what sounded like real sympathy. "We have been watching your distress signals for many years. We have the technology to heal your world, to clean your oceans and your air, to help your people live healthy lives again." Kim felt hope rising in her chest for the first time in years. Maybe the colony ships had not been their only chance after all. Maybe salvation had come from the stars. "What do you want in return?" Lee asked carefully. "Very little," the alien voice replied. "We ask only that humanity join our peaceful coalition of species. You would give up your weapons of war, your aggressive tendencies, and allow us to guide your development into a more peaceful form of existence." Over the next few days, the aliens landed on Earth and began setting up their equipment. They were tall and elegant, their bodies seeming to be made of living crystal that changed colors with their emotions. They moved gracefully and spoke softly, and everything they did seemed designed to make humans feel safe and welcome. Their leader called himself the first speaker. He met with Chancellor Lee in the ruins of what used to be New York City, now mostly underwater and covered in poisonous fog. But where the aliens set up their machines, the air became clean and the water began to clear. "You see?" the first speaker said, his crystal body glowing with soft blue light. "We can restore your world to its former beauty. Your people will never have to live underground again." Lee watched as alien machines pulled poison from the air and made it breathable again. Children from the underground cities were brought up to see blue sky for the first time in their lives. The sight made him want to cry with joy. But Dr. Kim Soo-jin was not feeling joy. She was studying the alien computers when they thought no one was watching. The aliens had given humans some of their technology to show goodwill, but Kim was a scientist, and she knew how to look deeper than what was shown on the surface. What she found made her blood turn cold. Hidden in the alien data files were records of other species, dozens of them. The files showed planets that had been saved by the Hegemony, species that had been helped, just like the aliens were helping humans now. The Vortani had been a warrior race, proud and strong, who fought great battles among the stars. Now they were simple farmers who never raised their voices above a whisper. The Cathari had been explorers who traveled to the edge of the galaxy. Now they lived quiet lives in small villages, never curious about what lay beyond their own world. The Jean had been artists and rebels who created beautiful and dangerous things. Now they made only simple crafts and followed orders without question. Every species the Hegemony had saved had lost something important. They had lost their fire, their curiosity, their willingness to fight for what they believed in. They had become peaceful, yes, but they had also become empty. Kim realized with growing horror that the Hegemony did not save species. They collected them. They took away everything that made a species dangerous or unpredictable and turned them into quiet, obedient pets. She tried to tell Chancellor Li, but he was too happy watching children play in clean air to listen to her fears. The other, human leaders were the same. After so many years of despair, they wanted to believe in salvation, but Kim knew the truth now. The Hegemony had not come to save humanity. They had come to tame them. Dr. Kim Soo-jin tried to warn Chancellor Lee Da-hoon for 3 days before. He finally agreed to meet with her. She found him in his office, looking happier than she had seen him in years. Outside his window, human children were playing in a park that had been poisoned wasteland just a week ago. The alien machines had cleaned everything, made it safe and beautiful again. "Chancellor, you have to listen to me," Kim said urgently. "I found something terrible in the alien computers." Lee smiled and poured himself coffee. Real coffee, not the fake stuff they had been drinking for 20 years. The aliens had brought it as a gift. "Kim, look outside, look at those children playing. When was the last time you saw children playing outside on Earth?" "That is not the point," Kim said, pulling out her datapad. "I found records of other species the Hegemony has helped. Look at this." She showed him pictures and files from the alien database. Warriors turned into farmers, explorers who never left their home villages, artists who only made simple, quiet things. Lee looked at the information but shook his head. Maybe those species are happier now. Maybe being peaceful is better than being warriors. "They took away their choice," Kim said desperately. "These aliens do not save species, they collect them. They make them harmless and obedient." Before Lee could answer, alarms started ringing throughout the building. Park Min-ho burst into the office, his face pale with fear. "Chancellor, they are taking people. The aliens are taking people to processing stations." Lee stood up quickly. "What do you mean taking people?" "Soldiers first. Anyone with military training. They say it is for medical evaluation, but the people who go in do not come out the same. They come out quiet and empty, like they forgot how to be angry or afraid." Kim felt her heart sink. It was starting. The Hegemony was beginning their real work. Outside, Captain Choi Jae-min was leading his security team when the aliens came for them. The crystalline beings did not ask politely anymore. They simply pointed strange devices at the humans and said, "You will come with us for processing." "Like hell we will," Choi growled, reaching for his weapon. The alien device made a humming sound, and Choi felt his muscles freeze. He could not move, could not speak, could only watch as his men were also paralyzed by the alien technology. They were taken to a large building that had appeared overnight, made of the same crystal material as the alien ships. Inside, Choi saw hundreds of humans lying on tables while alien machines worked on their heads. The people on the tables had their eyes open, but their eyes were empty. "Do not worry," said an alien doctor, its crystal body glowing soft green. "We are removing the violent parts of your brain. You will be much happier when we are done. You will never feel anger or fear or the need to fight again." Choi realized with horror that this was how they did it. They did not kill humans. They just took away everything that made humans dangerous. They were going to turn humanity into another collection of quiet, obedient pets. But the aliens had made one mistake. They had underestimated how fast humans could adapt when they were in danger. While Choi was being taken to the processing station, other human soldiers were already fighting back. In the underground cities, resistance groups formed within hours. People who had never been soldiers picked up weapons and started planning attacks. Dr. Kim Soo-jin used her access to the Luna Station communications to send a coded message into deep space. It was a desperate gamble, but she had to try. If any of the lost colony ships were still out there, if any humans had survived among the stars, they needed to know what was happening on Earth. The message was simple. The shepherds have come for the flock. The wolves must remember how to hunt. Captain Choi never made it to the processing table. As the alien machines prepared to cut into his brain, he managed to break free from their paralysis device. Years of military training and pure human stubbornness gave him the strength to move, when he should have been helpless. He grabbed a piece of broken alien technology and used it as a weapon, smashing his way through the crystal walls. Behind him, other humans who had been scheduled for processing began to wake up and fight back. They want to make us peaceful? Choi shouted as he led a group of humans out of the processing station. Let us show them what human peace looks like when you try to force it on us. The breakout from the processing station was just the beginning. All across Earth, humans were realizing that their saviors were actually their captors. Underground. Resistance cells coordinated attacks on alien facilities. People who had been grateful for clean air and water now saw the true price of that gift. The Hegemony had saved dozens of species by taking away their ability to fight. But they had never encountered a species that became more dangerous when cornered, that treated every attempt to tame them as a declaration of war. Far out in space, beyond the edge of the solar system, Admiral Yoon Tai-hwan received Dr. Kim's coded message on his flagship. His colony fleet had not been lost after all. They had been building something in the darkness between stars, something the Hegemony had never seen before. All ships, Admiral Yoon said calmly into his communication system. Humanity calls for aid, and humanity answers. Admiral Yoon Tai-hwan stood on the bridge of his flagship Defiance and watched the stars. For 15 years, his fleet had been drifting in the cold space between solar systems, not lost as Earth believed, but waiting. They had found planets, some good and some terrible, but they had found something more important. They had found each other. Admiral, called Captain Sun Mi-rae from her ship Revenge. We are receiving more signals from the other fleets. Captain Park Jin-woo reports his mining fleet is ready. Captain Kim Hae-jin says her exploration ships are armed and moving toward Earth. Yoon smiled grimly. The 47 colony ships that had left Earth over the past 50 years had not all died in space. Many had survived, grown strong, and built new ships from whatever they could find. Ice miners had become void fighters. Scientific explorers had become deep space raiders. Peaceful colonists had become something the galaxy had never seen before. How many ships do we have total? Yoon asked. 312, replied his communications officer, Lieutenant Cho Sung-ho. Not counting the small fighters and supply ships. 300 ships built from scrap metal, asteroid rock, and alien technology salvaged from dead worlds. Each ship told a story of human survival in impossible conditions. The Defiance itself had been built around the skeleton of an alien warship they had found drifting near a dead star. Captain Sun Mi-rae's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, should we tell them we are coming? No, Yoon said quietly. Let it be a surprise. Back on Earth, the Hegemony was discovering that humans were much harder to tame than other species. Their processing stations were under constant attack. Captain Choi Jae-min led raids almost every night, freeing humans before they could be pacified. The underground cities had become fortresses, and every human seemed to have learned how to fight. The first speaker was frustrated. In his long life, he had guided the peaceful integration of 43 different species. None had ever resisted this strongly for this long. Perhaps we should simply eliminate them, suggested his military advisor, a creature of sharp crystal edges and cold light. They are too aggressive to be properly civilized. No, the first speaker replied. That would be wasteful. Humans have useful qualities. Their aggression can be redirected. Their stubbornness can become loyalty. We just need more processing stations and better containment methods. The Hegemony began bringing in their military fleet. 60 warships arrived in Earth's orbit, each one larger and more powerful than anything humans had ever built. The crystalline vessels gleamed with weapons that could burn cities from space. Dr. Kim Soo-jin watched the alien fleet from Luna Station and felt her heart sink. Even with all the resistance on Earth, how could humans fight ships like that? Then, her instruments detected something impossible. Ships were appearing at the edge of the solar system. Human ships. "This is Admiral Yoon Tae-hwan of the Free Human Fleet," came a voice she had not heard in 15 years. "We have received your call for aid. We are coming home." The Hegemony fleet turned to face this new threat, expecting to see a few desperate refugee ships limping back to die with their homeworld. Instead, they saw something that made their crystal forms flicker with confusion. The human ships were wrong. They should not exist. Built from salvaged alien technology, asteroid metal, and pure human stubbornness, they looked like mechanical predators designed for war. Some were sleek like hunting sharks. Others were massive and brutal like space fortresses. All of them bristled with weapons that no peaceful species should possess. Captain Sun Mi-rae commanded a destroyer that had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Her crew were descendants of ice miners who had learned to fight in the crushing cold of deep space. "Hegemony fleet," she broadcast, "you are in human space. You have 30 seconds to surrender or withdraw." The Hegemony commander laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "You have 60 ships against our military fleet. You cannot win." 60? Captain Park Jin-woo's voice came from the mining fleet approaching from another direction. "You might want to count again." More human ships appeared from every direction. They had been hiding in asteroid fields, behind moons, in the shadow of planets. The lost colony fleets had not just survived, they had multiplied. The battle for Earth began with a simple message from Admiral Yoon. "The galaxy wanted to make us peaceful. Let us show them what human peace looks like." The Hegemony had fought many wars, but always against species they had first weakened and divided. They had never faced an enemy that had spent decades preparing for exactly this fight. Human ships swarmed their larger vessels like angry hornets, using speed and tactics instead of raw power. Captain Kim Hae-jin led a squadron of exploration ships that had been modified with weapons salvaged from a dozen different alien graveyards. "These crystal ships are pretty," she radioed to her pilots, "but they shatter just like glass when you hit them hard enough." The Hegemony fleet began to break apart under the human assault. Their ships were more advanced, but human ships were faster, meaner, and commanded by people who had learned that second place in space meant death. As alien ships burned in Earth's orbit, the first speaker realized he had made a terrible mistake. Humans were not like other species. They did not become weaker when scattered across the galaxy. They became stronger, more dangerous, more united in their fury. The flame of humanity had not been dying at all. It had been spreading to every corner of space, waiting for the moment when it would burn brightest. The war did not end at Earth. It spread like wildfire across 12 star systems as the human fleets revealed the true size of their diaspora. What the Hegemony had thought was one dying species on one poisoned world turned out to be millions of humans scattered across hundreds of planets, all of them angry, all of them armed, and all of them ready to fight. Admiral Yoon Tae-hwan stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched Hegemony ships burn in Earth's orbit. But this was only the beginning. His communications officer, Lieutenant Cho Sung-ho, was receiving reports from human fleets across the galaxy. "Admiral, Captain Lee So-young reports the Vega system is under human control. Captain Jung Min-ki has taken the Hegemony base at Wolf 359. The mining fleets have surrounded their main supply depot at Barnard's Star." Yoon nodded grimly. For 50 years, the Hegemony had thought they were watching humanity slowly die. In reality, they had been watching humanity slowly surround them. The first speaker floated in his command ship, his crystal body flickering with fear and rage. Around him, his advisors were panicking as reports came in from across their territory. Human ships were everywhere, striking fast and hard before disappearing back into the darkness between stars. "How is this possible?" demanded his military advisor. "Our scouts reported only a few small colony ships over the decades. Where did all these warships come from?" "They built them," the first speaker said quietly, finally understanding. "Every ship we destroyed they learned from. Every world they colonized, they turned into a fortress. Every human we thought had died in space became a teacher for the ones who survived. On Earth, Captain Choi Jaemin was leading human forces against the remaining hegemony processing stations. The aliens had built these facilities to tame humanity, but now they were trapped inside them as angry humans surrounded their crystal walls. "Surrender now and you will be treated fairly," Choi broadcast to the aliens inside. "Keep trying to lobotomize our people and we will show you what human creativity looks like when it comes to revenge." But the most important battle was not happening at Earth. It was happening at Kepler 442b, an ice world where human miners had been living for 30 years. The hegemony had a secret facility there, hidden beneath the frozen surface. Inside that facility were the real leaders of the hegemony, the ancient beings who had been taming species for thousands of years. Captain Park Jin-woo led the assault on the ice world with his mining fleet. His people knew every tunnel, every cave, every weakness in the planet's frozen crust. They had been preparing for this day since they first arrived and found evidence of other species that had been helped by the hegemony. The battle beneath the ice was brutal and short. The hegemony, elders had never expected to face direct attack in their most secure facility. They had weapons that could freeze human blood or shatter human bones with sound, but they had never faced humans who had learned to fight in conditions that would kill most other species. "Your empire ends today," Park told the chief elder as human forces surrounded the crystal throne room. "But we are not like you. We do not tame species or force them to be peaceful. We give them a choice." And that was the key difference. As human fleets swept across hegemony space, they sent the same message to every enslaved species they found. The Vortani, who had been turned from warriors into farmers. The Cathari, who had been changed from explorers into village dwellers. The Jan, who had been transformed from artists into simple crafters. "You have a choice," Admiral Yoon broadcast to them all. "Fight with us and reclaim your freedom, or stay neutral and we will respect that. But never again will you be forced to kneel to anyone." Some species were too broken to fight. Centuries of hegemony control had bred the rebellion out of them completely, but others remembered what they had once been. The younger Vortani picked up weapons for the first time in generations. The Cathari began building ships to explore space again. The Jan started creating art that was beautiful and dangerous and free. Dr. Kim Soo-jin watched from Luna Station as the galaxy began to change. The hegemony's peaceful empire was crumbling, but what replaced it was not chaos. It was choice. Species that wanted to fight were free to fight. Species that wanted to explore were free to explore. Species that wanted to be peaceful were free to be peaceful but on their own terms. On Earth, the alien machines continued to clean the air and water, but now human engineers were learning how they worked. Soon humanity would not need the hegemony's technology. They would improve it, make it better, share it freely with anyone who wanted it. Chancellor Lee Do-hoon stood in the same park where he had watched children play in clean air for the first time. Now those children were joined by young Vortani learning to laugh again, and Cathari youngsters asking questions about the stars, and Jan artists teaching human children how to paint with light. "They thought we were a dying flame," Lee said to Kim, who had joined him to watch the sunset over a healing Earth. Kim smiled as she watched Admiral Yoon's ships return from their final battle against the hegemony strongholds. They were right. We were dying, but they forgot that dying flame spread fastest of all, and the hottest fire burns just before it consumes everything in its path. Above them, human ships patrolled the space lanes, no longer the desperate survivors of a dying world, but the guardians of a galaxy where every species was free to choose its own path among the stars. The hegemony had wanted to tame humanity. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy how to be wild and free again.